All right, all right, all right. We in it, y'all. What's going on? We back at it. I'm gonna wait till a few people come in. We gonna get started. Let me know if the audio is coming in good. Let me know if the feed is coming in good too. And then we gonna get it started. All right. So typically with the live streams, the live stream podcast that I'm going to be doing, typically how this is gonna work is I'm going to record, do the live stream here, then post it on Patreon after. So that means Patreon members will always get exclusive access to this content, as I originally had stated. Now, the reason today we're doing a live stream on top of a live stream is because since I'm new to using this platform and this streaming network, I didn't exactly know how to unlist it and do it right. So there's some things that kind of went into it. So I have to do it publicly today, which is a benefit to all the subscribers. So shout out to y'all, man. Appreciate y'all for being here. I see my boy C, he hit me up. I see the Mile High says all good. Appreciate that. The Mile High Travel Guy. Damn, that's a catchy name, bro. That's a really catchy name. I like that. But yeah, as you guys can see, the topic of today, African divestors. Typically this is, the African women who typically go for other races of men that aren't their own. Now, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and opinions on this. And a lot of this stuff is going to be new to you because I know some people, the way they break it down is a lot of times, speaking, completely against the woman, but I would like to look at this from a different kind of angle, right? And yeah, we're gonna jump into it when a few more people just jumped in. Damn. I see the numbers is growing. I'm seeing it. Okay, cool. I see everybody here. Say what's up in the chat. We about to get started real soon. As you guys can see what this is about. We got a few different topics we're gonna talk about on this one. Now, just to reiterate, for everybody just joining in, typically these videos are going to be posted on the Patreon after I do the live streams on YouTube. So if you guys want exclusive access, if you guys are missing one of these videos, then you guys need to go ahead and apply to be a part of one of the Patreon tiers, Raw 1, Raw 2, Raw 3. Raw 2 and Raw 3 tiers, and then you guys can get full access to all my Patreon video content, right? I'm also doing a lot of re-uploads on Patreon as well these days. So, yeah, I mean, we have a topic to talk about, man. I mean, this is something that a lot of people, they've been hitting me up, asking me what's my thoughts on the matter. So we're definitely going to jump into it. I'm just waiting for a few more people to come in and we're going to jump into it. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to come at this topic from a different angle. I'm sure you guys haven't heard it from my angle, but that's the whole point of my content, being raw and as real as possible. Okay, so I'm coming at this from a different angle. And typically this content is going to be posted on Patreon, though, for my Extreme Raw Take live stream podcast like this, posted on Patreon. Got a lot of content on Patreon, but these videos, it's a lot of research that goes into this, a lot of understanding and learning and unlearning, relearning, all this stuff. So I'm putting a lot of work into these videos. These are going to go on the Patreon typically. Patreon link in the description. Enjoy the free first live stream podcast today, because typically these will all be on Patreon. So I've said it about 5 times now. I think y'all ready to get into the video. Stop hearing my goddamn Patreon rant. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Now, it's no surprise that around the world, we see a lot of races of women, typically going for the white man. A lot of countries, they call this the Mzungu. They have different names for the white man, right? And a lot of different races, they prefer this kind of man. Actually, worldwide, the white man is the most preferred, right? So it's no surprise that the African women would kind of fall in this category, to where they're also looking at white men as, their Lord and Savior, man, their husband, etc. And I know it's probably curious why I said Lord and Savior. I thought we were talking about husbands and relationships and African women dealing with other races of men that are not black, right? I thought that was the subject. Why would you say Lord and Savior? It's a tricky one, right? Well, that's because this is very deep rooted when it comes to the African culture. Now, typically inside of America, we can see that interracial dating is something that's completely normalized. We see a lot of people do it these days, but there's a deep-rooted reason that Africans do this a lot, right? So, and I see the chats coming in, guys. You guys can definitely chat while we're here. I'll read your chats when I can get to them. But it's no surprise that a lot of these African women are going for these white men, right? Now, why is that? Why did I say Lord and Savior? Why would someone say that, right? I believe that a lot of African women have, and a lot of people around the world, I believe they have a Jesus complex, right? When you see a white man, immediately your mind says this is a white man, but subconsciously, which is separate from your conscious mind sees a white man, your subconscious mind sees someone that looks like the most ultimate being, which is Jesus Christ for a lot of religious people, yes? So what we notice is that there's a lot of African women who, when they see a white man, their mind doesn't just see a white man, they also see a Lord and Savior. They see almost a Jesus Christ kind of figure. And while you may be thinking, well, Black American women, when they look at, white men, a lot of times they typically may prefer Black American men. Why is African women, why are they so quick to just what some would call sell out? Why would African women so quickly just say, oh, let me go to a white man? What? I mean, they go so quick. I mean, it's like right when a white man comes, immediately you see a lot of African women going straight for them in the clubs. I've seen African women approach or flirt with white men inside of the supermarkets, inside of African countries. As you guys know, I've been to many countries around the world, but I have a specific interest in Africa. I typically go there the most in the continent. Been to a lot of regions, a lot of countries there. And we notice that as time goes on, and a lot of Black people have messaged me to do this video for quite some time now, we notice that there's so many African women that keep going for the white man. So the first reason to why that is for everybody that's just coming in is because subconsciously, African women view the white man as a white savior, a Jesus complex. It's almost like their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We have to remember the Africans, they've grown up in a society where they're seeing a white God quite often. Now, in the Black communities inside of America, it's a bit different. And we're going to have time to get to the Black community and why it's so different from the African community. But it's important to, get a foundation first before we jump around. So consciously, we're dealing with African women who see the white man as just what he is, a white male. Biologically speaking, he is a white male. That's all they actually see out of their eyes. But inside of their mind, subconsciously, they see a Lord and Savior. We have to remember they grow up a lot of times never seeing a Black Jesus. They never grow up seeing a Black Santa Claus even. And mostly they watch a lot of Hollywood movies, which has always a white savior. We have to remember they grew up on white Jesus, white Santa Claus. They grew up on white Superman, white Flash, white Batman, all savior complexes that over time instill into let's say it instills into the youth's mind and subconsciously manipulates the mind to believe that these beings are of higher superiority than the beings that we currently have next to us. For instance, the African man. Now, besides just seeing them as maybe a God type of figure, they'll never acknowledge this. Why is that? Does anyone know in the chat why the African woman, even though subconsciously clearly holds an extreme love towards the white man, why won't they never say out of their mouth that, a white man is their God? Given the level of submission that they give the white man, you would just think that, given the amount of, you know, uh, divesting they do, you would just think that it would be easy to admit that they view white men as a kind of level of superiority, even if you look at the screen. Clearly, no African woman with these kind of looks would be with a man like the guy in the middle. I mean, I can understand maybe a fit and shape man, but this guy right here, a little bit of a beer belly, a beer gut with this in shape, slim African woman. Does anybody know why? Let's put Big Mike on the screen. Shout out to everybody commenting. Big Mike says, I was told by this African woman in the States, they want white men because they want mixed babies. Well, that may be true as well. The Mile High guy says, facts. Yeah, definitely. I only spit those. Well, they won't ever admit to the white man being God because they don't truly believe that that's how they act towards white men. See, we have to understand how psychology works. You have two parts of your brain, right? Your brain is split up in two. One side processes and another one thinks. There's two separates. I'm not a scientist here, but there's two different hemispheres of the human mind, of the human brain. As it pertains to the African woman, in her mind, she subconsciously sees this white man as superior. But in her conscious mind, which is the mind that most people are able to access, she views him as just a man. She thinks that she's just giving him the regular level of submission that she would give the average African or black male that comes to Africa. She thinks it's normal. But from what I've seen and I've heard from white men around Africa, the things they've told me they've done with the women for a small fee, or, how they've done certain things and how they get special privileges inside of Africa. From what I've heard, you can tell that they do have a certain level of love for the white man. So now that we understand that, right, let's now try to figure out why the Black American woman doesn't exactly view the white man as God, right? Now, Black American women, we have to remember, even though they have certain personality traits that some people would say are not preferred, we have to remember that our dear Black sisters have definitely been through they've been through the most extreme amounts of trauma. Over years and years of years has been normalized, and they've been brutally mentally played with. So a lot of times when we look at Black American women and we say to ourselves, well, these qualities aren't somebody that, maybe I'm looking for and this and that. And we're looking at them like, well, they're acting this kind of way. We also have to keep in mind that this is not a natural reaction to how they would have been if they didn't get kidnapped and put inside of this country and had been subjected to evil torment and science experiments. We have to keep this in mind. The Black American woman didn't just pop up and become the way she is today. She was brutally tortured mentally and physically, and that's what made her, the way she is today. So a lot of times we say to ourselves, well, this isn't preferred behavior, but we have to keep that in mind too. This is not natural for the Black woman to act this way. Why does she act this way? Because she was kidnapped from her home country, as well as us Black men, brought into a society that was never meant for us. So that's just to preface, to give a structure of the Black woman first, to understand the mindset, and how she became the way she is today. Now, while we can say, oh man, we definitely, don't like certain personality traits of our sisters. One thing that us Black men can say that we like and we love is that Black women do seem to have some kind of deep-rooted dedication to the Black man, something that I rarely see inside of Africa, right? I've never heard an African woman say, I only date African men. I've never heard that. But I have heard Black women say that they only date uh, uh, Black American men. Now, we have to acknowledge that there's a certain intelligence that Black women have as it pertains to understanding the oppressor and how they got in this situation in the first place. Even though it was more localized, where they were learning about white Santa Claus, white Jesus, they learned about um, white greatness, white Superman, white Batman. They've definitely seen it more than the African women. But it's the deep-rooted connection that Black people have with each other that keeps Black women remaining extremely loyal, at least race-wise, to Black people, right? We grew up a different kind of way inside of Black America. We grew up not just accepting what the oppressors put inside of our mental. We grew up creating our own traditions. We grew up creating our own way of living, our own lifestyles. Africans still have this as well. But we have to keep in mind that while there's a lot of Black Americans that learned about Christmas, that learned about Jesus Christ, we have to keep in mind that since we've been through so much inside of America, there's a lot of mental fighting back, a lot of not giving in. We have created Kwanzaa to replace our Christmas. We've created, you know, uh, certain cultural, certain deep-rooted ancient religions like Egyptology to replace our Christianity, right? So as Black people, we have a more, I'm trying to get the right word. We have a more, well, I would say that we're, because I know a lot of people are probably expecting me to say we're mentally stronger than the Africans, but I would say that we were tortured more, which by default created a certain strength to our mind to not just give in so easy to people that were oppressing us, right? So this is why the African woman and the Black woman differ so much. African women actually push back certain deep-rooted issues. Excuse me, Black women actually push back certain deep-rooted issues. African women, they don't really push back because they don't really see a problem with it, maybe, or they haven't been through the brutal scrutiny that African American women have been through. All right. So that's the first reason why African women divest or choose to do interracial marriages or interracial relationships. It's actually very interesting. I'll give you guys a quick story. I was talking to this one woman inside of Africa, and she was such a good vibe, such good energy. Now, as you guys know, typically I may talk to many types of women because I like to associate with just, healthy minded people, etc. I like to just talk. I'm a talker. I like to have good communications, make good connections with people. For me, it never has to always end up in maybe the bedroom. Sometimes I just like to get to know a person. I was talking to this one woman, and you know, she was such a vibe. She was such a good connection. But I remember she told me she was on a trip one day, and I said, "Oh, where did you end up going?" She didn't reply for like maybe a couple hours, and I'm like, "Dang," she usually like be hitting me up. Like it's one of those women that kind of just, man, she's like all over your device, right? She's constantly like hitting you up and all this stuff, just because you guys have that good connection. She was getting some ladies from my videos that I was doing over there for my podcast, and she was a cool chick. But I remember I checked her status, her story, and I saw a picture of her having a white guy. She was, I think, in Italy or something like that, and a white guy, he put his hand on her thigh. And I said to myself, well, that's interesting that she did that, like, because I've seen that before. I've seen a lot of African women take pictures like that, whether it's a piece of a guy's pinky, a white man's pinky that gets in her video. I've seen so many African women I've seen have a piece of a white man's hand in a video, or maybe a white man's shoulder, maybe like, uh, the back of a white man in their video or a picture. And I'm like, why do they do this? And I asked the African woman, I said, why did you take a picture like that where the white dude's, hand is on your thigh? I mean, like, what was the goal there? She said, well, inside of my country, having a white man, that means you have status. I said, what do you mean by that? She says, well, if you have a white man in your picture, it's almost the same as having a Mercedes Benz or a Gucci bag. A white man is a sign of wealth and prosperity. So you have a lot of African women that they take pictures with white men. They like to be around white men because it's a status symbol, which brings me to my next point, that a lot of times when African women are dealing with white men, they're dealing with them because for them, it's a status symbol or money, right? And now this is what's going to throw you guys off a lot, right? Because I know some of the brothers here probably thinking, well, travel tribe raw, the rawest and the realest. He going to give it real every single time. So clearly his response to this is that these type of African women are bad news. They're bad luck. You shouldn't be around them. They're evil people, etc. Right? Because she's divesting. She's choosing an interracial relationship. She's choosing to go to somebody else, right? Actually, no. I don't view the African woman as a bad woman or anything for dealing with the white man. And I'm going to give you guys the reason to that in a second. But I want you guys, before I give my reason, I want you guys to tell me in the comments on the live stream chat right now, why do you guys think I am not too upset at African women dealing with white men? I'm going to give you guys a second while I go turn off my AC. Because golly, it's been cold in here. I'm not going to lie. I've been shivering, y'all. I've been shivering. Give me a second. But I want to hear from you guys first. Why do you believe that I'm not upset at African women dealing with white men? I'll give you guys a second. We have time. By the way, these videos will usually be on Patreon. Today I'm doing it on YouTube as a courtesy and because I'm still learning the system. But typically these long 1 hour to 3 hour, even 10-hour live streams will be on Patreon. All right, y'all? But let me hear you guys' answers. All right. Let's see you guys' answers. Let's see. I see we have a bit of a crowd in here today, huh? Shout out to all you guys for being here. Shout out to all you guys. It is so cold in my crib right now, y'all. Whew. Okay. Let me see some of the comments that are coming in. The question right now is, why am I not upset at African women dealing with white men? Why do you think I'm not upset about that? Clearly, I'm pro-Black. Clearly, I advocate for Black people quite often and Africans equal. Why do you think I'm not too upset? Let me read some of you guys' comments. The Mile High says the quality's all good. The Mile High Travel guy says, we need to do a show together. I lived in Dar for 3 years. I have hella stories, bruh. Oh, that would be nice. Yes, we should do a story. A video very soon about your stories. Hit me up on Instagram at TRAVELTRIBERAW and we can talk about that. In the Tube We Trust says, miss you, brother, was worried. Yeah, I had time to sit, think, unlearn, relearn certain things that I needed to so I can be a better man. So I took some time off to understand the way of the world, understand more, to understand how we as Black people can do better. Something I did realize is that as Black people, we're constantly chasing our tail, constantly ending up in an endless cycle of foolishness. And I realized that you know, I've been traveling for many years now. I've been around the world. And I keep seeing Black communities popping up, whether it's online or in person, and it never ends up going anywhere. And I believe that's because Black people, when it comes to unionizing and having an actual goal, the goal is set, the goal is always solid. But I don't think that it's well planned, because every time I see Black races get to the tippy top, whether it's an African or a Black person, it's always one person inside of the mix that ends up ruining the whole entire goal, and that person I call is an infiltrator. And I've realized now more than ever that these infiltrators are a serious problem. I mean, we already have to deal with the powers that be. We already have to deal with the fact that certain things that we thought were impossible are possible. For instance, they have a guy that was reported that he did something crazy to this Ukrainian woman on a train, and there was reports saying before he did that, he said, "There's something in my head. There's something in my head." So before the Black guy attacked this Ukrainian woman, this is the reports that he used to make statements like this. And you think to yourself, well, I know they've experimented on a lot of Black people, a lot of Black men. I wouldn't be surprised if they put this thought into his head to make him do something like this. You guys should really look into your history too, because they've done so many experiments on Black men and Black women that anything's possible. At some point it all seemed like science fiction to me, but now, anything's possible. So I took some time off to unlearn, relearn. A lot of times we won't be talking about women on this channel, but for today's video, I thought it was very important to talk about this topic. But yeah, I really took some time off, so I appreciate you being worried. But you know, um, you have to take time off to learn in this life. There's a lot of things to learn. There's a lot of things to cover, and they say we have limited time. We don't know about reincarnation, if that's real yet, but they say we have limited time. So I took my time and I used it valuably to unlearn, relearn, and, do better in certain areas of my life and give you guys better information than I was giving maybe prior. I think my information I was giving before was pretty accurate, but, I had to start looking at certain things a bit different. Because if I am going to be a raw and real person, raw meaning to the soil, being grounded, and being real, which means accepting the truth, even though it might be a tough pill to swallow, then I need to ensure that I have the right information to give to you guys. So that's why I really took some time off, because certain things, even when it comes to like the whole pan-Africanist movement, FBA movement, my mind has shifted a bit when it comes to this, because every single time I'm noticing right when we get to that finish line, the powers that be or some goofy infiltrator messes up our mission. And I've learned from it, and I know how to move appropriately for this next stage, and how to counter that evil that will try to overthrow us. I see how it works now. It's interesting. It's actually, as a Black man, I really feel like I'm seeing behind the veil. I feel like for so many months I took a while off, and I'm just the whole time I was looking behind a window while everybody else is outside. I just took time and I really just watched. I watched patterns. I focused. I took notes, and I feel like I really have a more clear head, and I'm starting to understand certain things that maybe I wasn't seeing before, especially when it comes to African people, and especially when it comes to my own Black people. So, thank you for being worried again. But yes, I'm good. Let's go to the next one. Young Villain says God is a bit extreme. It's not extreme at all. This is how a lot of them unfortunately believe of the white man, but it's a subconscious thing. They don't even know that they view the white man inside of Africa as their God. We read this one already. Shout out to Big Mike. The Mile High guy, he guessed it right. He says, maybe the reason I'm not upset at them or, looking at them in a bad way is because they're doing it for a visa or money. That's a good guess. That's a good guess, definitely. Young Villain says, realistically, what percentage of African women think like this? Because I'm sure there's women who want a man similar, their own Black, and don't have that halo effect on white dudes. No, you're completely correct. You're completely correct. There is a lot of African women that do not view white men as their God or anything. Even subconsciously, some of them are so smart that they understand that, you know, these white people are kind of the reason that we're in this situation of poverty right now. So, they kind of look at it like, the white people's forefathers, that's the reason that we're even in this mess. So they're smart enough and intellectual enough to not even view them like that. But there is a nice percentage of African women when you get to Africa that you'll notice they might deal with you, but they will be wanting a white man. They'll leave you immediately for a white man as well. So that's what that's about. Let me see. Big Mike says, I disagree. White men go to Africa because they love African women. Well, Big Mike, you know, I wish you gave more context to that, but what's your definition of love? I'd be curious to hear that, because I don't want us to keep getting misconstrued. A lot of times we think us being fetishized equals love, you know, and they're complete different things. Even the black man falls victim to this as well. A lot of black men think that they're wanted by a lot of these other races of women. There is other races of women that truly want you, truly desire you because they view you as a human. But for others, it's just because of the long schlong rumors. And I don't know if all of you are as gifted as me in that department, but hey, it might be true for you, might not, but they trying to test out the waters. They trying to see what's up with it. They trying to see what's up with it. They don't really like you for you. They like you because the energy that they can steal from you, or even just the status that comes with you, you know? And shout out to the real white women, man. I really do like me a good foreign woman that really can say certain things that really shocks my mind. For instance, I went to a certain country and this woman, she told me, she said, you know, the skin of a black man is very important. I said, what do you mean by that? Because I know the science and biology behind it, but I wanted to know if she did. And she says, no, it's just important because melanin is a key component for a human to live a healthy existence. The sun is something that we need to take in a lot of you know uh vitamin D is very important. The sun holds crucial biological information for our bodies that our bodies store and uses. So she really explained this to me quite nicely, and I really do appreciate white people or Latina women or Asian women. And it was surprising because Asian women, especially when they're a bit darker skinned, they do know that there is a slight biological superior skin color, you know, at least when it comes to on paper, biologically speaking. There's a lot of whites and Asian ladies that I've heard this from. So, shout out to them. But nothing as specific as what this one woman had told me about how the black man's, skin is the most important. Nothing to how she broke it down. And I've seen a lot of science about this as well. So something to be said about that. Uh, Starburst says 100. Shout out to him. It looks like he agrees. Uh, Slavery was very colonialism. Yes, it was. Poverty, they struggling out here. Yes, 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 definitely. Zanpo says African women don't belong to your people, bruh. Go patrol your American women. They are free to do as please. Okay. You I can tell you're a very low IQ person because I can see right here you didn't capitalize the T after you wrote women. Then you said they are free to do as please. So you're so low vibrational and so mentally slow that you didn't even understand that your dictions were wrong and your vocabulary was completely off-putting. Like you didn't do it right, bro. So if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me on a call right now. I think that would be better because clearly it's really hard to understand your wordage. Very bad wordage. I'm not impressed. So let's do this. Let's do this. I'm going to open up the line so that you can call in and say what you say uh, on a call. I think that would be fair, right, fellas? Do you guys think that would be fair, or should I leave them in the comments? What do you guys think? Oh, oops. Shout out to Starburst. She says, I'm a woman. I guess with the name Starburst, you is a woman, huh, girl? I guess with the name Starburst, she is a woman. um, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the call link here so that the fools are able to call in. It's no problem at all. I definitely like putting fools to shame, uneducated people to shame. It's no problem. So let me put the call in here. Invite guest, copy. Guests can stream this to their own destinations. Send this link to the people. Oh, okay, that's cool. Damn, this app makes it very easy to do things. Okay, so if you look at the chat right now, you are able to call in and debate me on what you've just said. Let me see. Zampo, that was his name, Zampo. African women don't belong to your people, bro. Go patrol your American women. They are free to do as please. It's like we can tell this is one of those low IQ brothers too, and that's the saddest part about them. And this is what I was saying earlier, right? For all I know, with this person Zampo, this may not be a real human. This can be an AI commenter that was created by a huge corporation to cause turmoil, confusion inside of our healthy Black communities. You see, we're having a healthy Black discussion here, but yet you come in with your weird words saying African women don't belong to your people when we're literally African American. So we all belong to each other. But your low IQ, low vibrational comment, you wouldn't understand this. So that's why I'm giving you the option to call in right now, Zampo. Okay? Call in, bud. It's cool. And I really won't take it hard on you too, because I just want us to have an intellectual debate. I'm tired of like weirdos commenting and people giving too much energy to it. You might not be a real human. For all I know, I truly believe this. I don't think that you are really a real person. I think you could be fake. And if you are a real person, then my next thing tells me that you must have been paid by somebody. And if you're not paid by somebody to cause turmoil and confusion inside of our Black and African safe spaces, then clearly you are mentally slow. That's the only other thing I can come up with. There's only three options here. So I'll give you a second to call in. Shout out to the people that have already commented. Um, but yeah, let me go ahead, get back to my main point. So I asked you guys earlier, I said, why do you think I'm not too upset at the African woman for dealing with white men? A few people guessed it right. The answer is simply money. I'm not upset at them because they are getting money. And this money is going to be used for them to live their life. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, the African man can provide money as well. So, why would you say that it's okay for an African woman to date or marry a white man? Well, I'm here to tell you this today, brothers, and this may be something unfortunate to hear, but there is a lot of Black men and African men that haven't worked hard enough to even be able to have one of these women in their life. You think to yourself, right? What is it that women are looking for? Women typically are looking for a man that can provide structure, stability. A lot of times, stability comes in the form of money and resources. When I traveled around Africa, I noticed that there was a lot of African men that they may have had a very beautiful woman in their life, but when I saw their work ethic, I said to myself, this dude would never in a million years be able to get a woman inside of America with this kind of work ethic or anywhere else inside of this world with this kind of work ethic. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. This person doesn't work hard enough. But yet I would hear African dudes out of their mouth tell me, I still cheat on my woman. And I'm thinking to myself, right? I hardly respect you as a man because you haven't worked hard enough to be respected as one. Your work ethic comes off lazy. These can even be people that I've employed. And I'm thinking to myself, your work ethic comes off lazy, but yet you have a beautiful woman here and you're not striving to be the best man that you can be. A beautiful woman, she seems supportive, she seems very feminine, but you're very comfortable in your life of being lazy. Now, the problem with this is very simple. If you can't provide structure, if you can't provide resources to your woman and you're providing the bare minimum, a shanty apartment in the middle of nowhere, you as an African man aren't giving your woman the life that she deserves based off of who she is. She's a quality woman. She's submissive. She's feminine. She's willing to go the extra mile for you. She'll bear your kids. She'll do all that you need her to do. But yet, you do the bare minimum. I'm not mad at African women going to white men. Where else are they going to go? Where else are these African women going to go, y'all? Really think about this, right? Think about this. Think about all the dudes, right, that you've just seen sitting outside throughout the day. They doing nothing every single day. You seen them outside of your apartment, chilling, just doing nothing for a living. Now, I'm going to be honest here, right? I'm going to be honest. My heart goes out to the African brothers, right? Because I know these African brothers, for a lot of them, they want to work hard. They want to be able to provide the life that their woman deserves. I know it must hurt too. But the issue is their disgusting African government and a lot of governments around the world inside of these countries are stripping the people dry, stripping the men dry of business of work because these evil governments and corporations are filling their hands with money and they couldn't care a heck in the world about their own people because they're too busy trying to show off and buy Mercedes Benzes and, live in these luscious mansions while the rest of their people inside these African countries suffer. It's the governments that are evil and aren't providing enough resources and cash flow for the people inside their country. It's the governments. I'm telling you guys, if you knew how much money these African governments get, you guys would expect that every single African man inside these countries should be living large. But these governments are so evil and so greedy that they leave so little room for the African man to be able to afford anything. Heck, not just for his woman, but for himself. But then you have certain African men that I've seen inside of Africa. And these dudes are so lazy. You employ them, you give them actual legitimate work. They're asking you, hey man, do you think I can get some more money? And you're thinking to yourself, well, damn, brother, I just blessed you with a great job. You get paid 3 times the amount that most Africans get paid in this country. I Googled. Not only that, but I feed you 2 meals, 1 to 2 meals every day, depending on how long you're working with me. But yet it was always for me, for not just me doing business, but even from others that I've seen hiring African people, some African men, this isn't all, but some African men, you give them these great opportunities and they're scounging it, being lazy or asking for more. And when you pair that with the hardworking African men that are ready to work, but their evil government isn't giving them enough opportunities to work and create cash flow, legacy, resources, then now you can kind of start to understand why the African woman, in some capacity, has no other choice but to deal with a white man. Where else is she going to go so that she can get resources that she needs so that she can bear fruit, that she can live in a life that, if an unexpected hospital bill or unexpected emergency comes up with her family, where else is she supposed to go? If the men in your country aren't performing and there's other people in other countries that are performing, I feel bad for you in that country if you're underperforming due to your evil government soaking you from your resources. But this doesn't take away from the fact that biology says when women are looking for a man to be with, a life partner, she's not looking for a man biologically that is underperforming, that doesn't have the resources. Every single time when you look at the study, the woman is always looking for the greatest match, which is a man that has resources, money, and structure. If the white man is able to provide that, then I'm not mad at the African sisters for getting with these white men. But you know when I do get disturbed? When these African women are dealing with these white men so that they can get Gucci bags and they can flex their Mercedes Benzes, then I get a little thrown off. But that at the end of the day, when I compare that life to the life that most African dudes are out here giving this kind of woman, I say to myself, you know what? It's either this life or that life. And I'm not going to lie to you. If I was a female, I want to cry in a Rolls Royce too. I don't want to cry in no damn Matatu or a damn bus. I want to cry in a Rolls Royce too. I want to cry in a Mercedes Benz too. I want to know I have enough money that if I need to go ahead and help my family out, I want to know that I can do that. And these white people are able to provide this for a lot of these African women. This is why you see a lot of African women dealing with these white men. We have more to say. There's more to say. But I see I'm getting some comments. For some reason, Zampoopoo that had commented earlier, he has fled from existence. I don't even see him in the chat anymore, and he definitely didn't try to call. Cowardly behavior from a lesser man. And if this is what these African women are dealing with, you can imagine why that they sometimes they deal with white men. Young Villain says fourth option is Zampo is probably a fat white 21-year-old virgin who spends all day on Discord and video games. That can be a possibility too. Shinobi Ken says it's funny because most white people are poor. Well, Shinobi, that's not actually true. The numbers show that the majority of white people hold majority of the wealth on this planet. That's a fact. White people and Asian people are some of the richest demographics on earth. This is a fact. So no, a lot of these white people are not poor. I cannot blame an African woman for wanting a better life because she's stuck with the men in her country that have made peace with where they're at. I always commend Kenyan men. I always commend Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. We have the history of the Zulus. We have the Ethiopians. I always commend people that say, no, I'm not going to be okay with this life that you're giving me because this life isn't enough to live. I always give props and credit to these kind of people because while some African countries have said, okay, my government's not giving me anything except a piss to drink, they say, you know, enough is enough. And we're going to make sure that we can get enough to provide not just for ourselves, but for our families, our offspring, and our legacy. I always give props to the men that strive and form revolutions so that they can have a better way of living. But I can't be upset at the African women in the process that get with these white men because they're looking for a better way of life. If that life does come with Gucci bags and Mercedes Benzes, you guys don't know real poverty. I think that's what the issue is too. I have been to horrible places inside of Africa, and I said to myself, how can any human live like this? Do you know there's a place called Makoko Village inside of Nigeria? Do you know there's other places inside of Africa where the whole area, the whole place that these people live is made out of complete cardboard or some type of metal tin that they just found? Do you know I've seen babies that don't have actual beds to sleep in? They sleep in these 99-cent store plastic containers to keep them from drowning from all the water that fills up the houses inside of the area. It's sewer water, by the way. And it fills up the houses throughout the whole entire city inside of Africa. You guys don't know real poverty. Shout out to my African homie. He said, you go know poverty, and you go know poverty, you know poverty, and you know poverty. And he was basically telling me that you have not seen how bad it gets. So that's what he was saying. You do not see go how bad it gets. Oh, it gets bad. So I can't blame these African women for going to these white men in some capacity. I can't blame them. And that goes for other races of women around the world. And if you were in that situation as the woman, you would want somebody to look at you and say, you know what? I'm not mad at her for that. If you were in that woman's shoes, you would think to yourself, after being with your African man for so long and seeing that, man, this way of living, man, we're living in poverty. I can't keep living like this. A white man comes up to you while you're working in your small job. You see that he's open to, being with you, and he's trying to court you and stuff. Of course, you have to go to him. Now, I will say this. There is a lot of ungrateful women as well that will see their man working hard and still leave them for a white man. See, that's not right, because now you're being unfaithful. And that's something that I don't tolerate. That has nothing to do with the raw and real lifestyle. It's demonic in nature. You don't leave a man that is trying his hardest, that is actually doing things and sacrificing for you. You don't leave him. You don't leave him. You work through that. That's what loyalty is. So before we get on to the next topic, I do want to commend my African brothers for the revolutionists. I do want to commend them because I can see that while their government says we're going to strip you dry and not give you anything, while we get all this aid from foreign countries and while we get so many donations and live in rich, nice luxury houses, we might have 10 mansions across the city, and they drive in Mercedes-Benz cars, and having other people that don't even have a means to get to work and they can't even afford the bus, and they watch. I can commend those people that say, you know what? This government is corrupt. This government is evil. God's not coming to save me. I'm going to go ahead and make a way for my family, because there's no way I'm going to let my offspring live like this. There's no way I'm going to live like this. And there's no way my woman's going to live like this. I commend those brothers. I commend them with all my might, because that takes everything to do that. You've never been in a real revolution. So just imagine these brothers that really push themselves. I also commend the African brothers that actually do work hard, because there is a good majority of African men that are working hard. But I have seen just as many hardworking African men. I've seen as many African lazy men as well. And that is disgusting. I can't even respect some of them as a man, because I'm like, you're so lazy. You finally get an opportunity, and this could set your family straight. Yet you put in bare minimum effort, bare minimum. You get an opportunity of a lifetime, getting 3 times the local wage, and you scourge that opportunity. Useless behavior. But yet you expect one of these African women to refer to you as a man and submit to you wholeheartedly. Disgusting. Let's read some of these comments. Men Black says the African men are oppressed by white supremacy. So to say Africans don't work hard to imply the white people work hard is crazy. I don't know if you didn't listen to everything I just said right now, and you can call up. Maybe I might have to put the link in the description again, or put the link inside the chat again. But if you're not listening, you got to clean your ears, brother. I definitely said that these white people, they're sending aid to the countries, right? The governments are taking from them. And for you to say right now, too, white supremacy, they're oppressed by white supremacy, brother, it's not white supremacy suppressing the African people. It's the African supremacist, the evil African supremacists suppressing the African people. You have these non-human entities that see their country suffering. They're getting US aid, 50 million for this, 100 million for that. Aid from all over the world that can fix a lot of things in their country. That money doesn't go to the people. This has nothing to do with white supremacy too. White supremacy, that's an issue, right? That's an issue. I misspoke. That's an issue. But when it comes to African supremacy, and I'm trying to figure out a good way to say this because it's not African supremacy, because that would be an African like promoting other Africans, right? And the highest supreme, right? But it's an evil African supremacy. These families are going to have all this money and give the people in the country the bare minimum, which is nothing. You might be able to catch my spit if I spit far enough out my window and you can touch it. But these evil African supremacists give nothing to the African people. We need to stop saying white supremacy. We need to stop saying that. It's not just about white people being supremacists. It's also about these evil Black and evil African people as well that are stripping their people dry. Just like I said earlier, we do know that white people have messed us up. If you go all the way back to the very beginning of the video, I mentioned white people have clearly messed us up. That's a fact. Slavery, history, experiments, all the things they've done to us, that's a fact. They've messed us up. But inside of Africa, what those African brothers and sisters are dealing with, I'm here to tell you today, brother, it barely has things to do with white supremacy rather than what it has to do with African evil supremacy. The evil African elites don't give nothing to the African people. Therefore, the African people suffer. They're puppets. You see, there's certain African leaders that fight back and say, hell no, enough is enough. You're not going to treat my people like this because we're human. We deserve to live a humane life. And then you see there's some that are demonic and evil and give their people nothing. So yeah, brother, this isn't all about white supremacy and, et cetera, et cetera. This is about non-hardworking African men and African men that are looking to work hard, but their evil government doesn't want to assist them at all. This is what that's about. All right. Shinobi Ken says, let's not talk about materials like their land, like lithium, silver, and gold, which is the all-time high and needed for AI. Okay. I don't know why you mentioned that, but all right. The Mile High says, I have had several businesses in Tanzania and I still have businesses there. And yeah, a lot of them are lazy and they steal. Oh man, brother, that's one way that I know you're a real businessman. Because yes, that is something you go through a lot. Even when you're trying to get some land and some buildings built inside of some of these countries, you'll notice your tools are missing. And then sometimes when they give you an estimate, you're noticing they're constantly increasing the estimate as they're doing work. And you're like, well, how are you increasing, as you already have built the foundation of it, but now you're saying you need double that? That doesn't make any sense. But this is how they do. This is how they play. In a lot of African brothers' minds, they don't think that they're going to see money another day. They don't think they're going to see money tomorrow. So what they've learned from their disgusting evil government is that I have to make fast money and I have to make it now. They've been stripped dry so bad that when a good opportunity does finally hit them and somebody does employ them and gives them legitimate work, in their mind, they say this is too good to be true and they self-sabotage. I can't even blame the African man for doing this because this comes from their evil, corrupt governments. I can't even blame them. Young Villain says, could there be more to it than money, like the appeal of something uncommon or unfamiliar? Maybe. I do have another theory that I think they have Disney princess programming. I think a lot of women have this, But I think for them, since they've seen the Prince Charming always is maybe a white guy in Disney movies, a lot of African women, they grew up on Disney movies. That could be part of it. That could be part of it. Most definitely. Good point. Dan says, is an African country still your next destination, or are you planning to go somewhere else? Well, Dan, I'm gonna leave that to myself. These days, man, I'm more calculated. Moving around, telling everybody your business thing online. If we talk personally, maybe I'll let you know if I get to know you a little bit. But hey, man, you know, these days, man, there's too many people trying to mess with you. Look at Austin. Austin said his whole entire itinerary, and some woman just exposed Austin recently and said, oh, Austin's planning to go to South Africa, then he's planning to go here, then he's planning to go here. And each country he goes to, he's probably going to be on the red list, if I'm going to be honest, God forbid, but he's probably going to be on the blacklisted. Yeah, because he unfortunately felt comfortable online to give his whereabouts. So, in the countries I go to, you'll see them, the countries I'd like to be shown publicly. I always show the countries that I want to be seen publicly on camera. But for some other countries now, we got to move a certain way, brothers. This is not the same world it used to be, man. There's stalkers and weirdos. Stalkers and weirdos. So we're going to get back to the topic at hand. I see the comments are still coming in, but I want to finish this conversation off. Now, another reason that African women tend to get with white men is because they are simply gold diggers. Yeah, I mentioned this previously as well, but African women, a lot of them are gold diggers, especially inside the major city. In their mind, they can care less about where they live. They only care about how they're perceived. I've seen many African women that buy fake Gucci bags. They buy fake diamond chains and all types of stuff. You guys will be surprised. A lot of these women in these foreign countries, man, I'm telling you, besides their fake bodies and their synthetic fake hair, not calling out anyone in particular, but besides that, you'll notice that instead of having a nice crib to live in, or maybe buying something that would actually better their life, like a college education, a lot of times they get that money from being a gold digging type of female. They get that money and they splurge it on things that they shouldn't be splurging it on. It's actually very simple. It's just like that. They splurge that money that they could have used when they're gold digging from a lot of these men. And sometimes they're successful in getting the money, but a lot of times they splurge it on things that they shouldn't be splurging it on. I recall a story real quick. And before we get into my story, I'm going to show you guys real quick. I do have a Patreon that you guys can subscribe to. My Patreon has exclusive content. That's typically where I'm going to host these live streams. Today, I'm throwing out a free one, but that's where I'm typically going to host these live streams. They'll be an hour to 3 hours long once every week. This is my guarantee to you. I also do consultations depending on the tier and the group chat, which is accessible for all that are signed up on the Patreon tier. So, there's going to be a lot of exclusive videos, et cetera there. And also you guys can get some exclusive content and get some more access to my live streams and consultations. So amongst other things, there's also the Financial Freedom Masterclass. I think a lot of you guys will enjoy that. A lot of American people, we're living like rats, in a way our government has also forgot about us. A lot of times we're living a life that we think to ourselves, this life should be better than this. And I have found the ways to attain a life that's worth living. Whether you're looking to travel for short term or long term, I have ways that you can make fast, legal, legit money so that you can leave the country as soon as possible. Because let's say you've already reached your max. You've been dealing with the women in this country and you're tired. You've been dealing with the women in your country and you need a break. Maybe you just want to leave because you want peace. You're tired of police brutality. You're tired of the gangs. You're tired of the random offings of certain figures, and you just want to find peace and culture and people and animals, all the stuff that they have in these foreign countries that's beautiful. Maybe you just want to find that. You just need to leave quick. I have a way that you can do that. I also have a way that you can leave long term, and how much money that would cost. I budget everything out for you, and I show you inside of these videos in this masterclass on how you can get women as well, whether it's short term or long term. So yeah, there you go. Secure your legacy today and join the Patreon. Link in the description, and or you can just type it in, patreon.com/TravelTribeRaw. So I'm going to tell you guys a story that I recall from a certain woman inside of South Africa. It's actually a good one, so you guys need to really lock in for this. It's a really good story. So you guys know, before, when I was traveling around South Africa, I was doing my podcast over there, and I had a lot of ladies around. And I remember after the podcast, one of the ladies, we have like a really good relationship, even still to this day. She basically gets me ladies for my videos. She was assisting me doing that. And she came back to my crib after the podcast was finished. And I remember she told me, she said, that was interesting what she said. I was like, what? She was like, what that one woman said in the podcast about having a job. I said, what did she say? Because after the podcast, I can care less what the ladies say. I'm ready to go home and eat some food and sleep. Put out the content, edit it, and give it to y'all, and maybe work on something else, and then sleep. Like I'd be so tired after dealing with all these chicks, man. It's draining. I do it for you guys, but really it's draining as hell. I'm gonna be uploading some of those videos on the Patreon as well, so you guys should tune in there. Patreon.com/TravelTribeRaw. But anyways, I recall that there was a woman, and she's from South Africa, and she tells me, she's like, yeah, when we're back inside my apartment, she tells me, yeah, that girl, she said that she works for a living and she doesn't really work. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, no, she goes and stays at clubs and waits for men to go ahead and basically give her some money, for certain things. And I said, wow, okay, that's cool, I guess. I, okay. It's unfortunate that she lied on the podcast, because typically, I'd like the ladies to tell the truth, and I like them to share information. But I see why she didn't want to say that. I can get how that can be a little bit embarrassing. She says, yeah, but it's even more interesting too, because all the money that she gets, you saw she dressed nice, right? I was like, yeah, she did dress very nice. And I saw all the stuff she had and all this stuff. And she was like, yeah, but she actually is broke. She lives in her car, and she's completely broke. All you should see her car. All she has so much clothes in there because she doesn't have a closet. And sometimes when she's dealing with these men, she goes and lives with them for a couple months. And sometimes she gets thrown out, and sometimes she loses some of her stuff. But she told me that this woman, she's getting money, but the money that she's getting, she's not using it the right way. She uses it to splurge and to buy Gucci bags and all this stuff, but she's living in extreme poverty. And I said to myself, wow, that's an interesting case study, because the way this woman was dressed, the way she was looking, you would think that she had it going on. But in reality, she actually didn't have it going on at all. She was living in extreme poverty. I'm guessing her mental health wasn't too good. So a lot of women, to be honest with you guys, they're dealing with these white men inside of some of these countries because they just want the look of being mentally okay and mentally stable. They want the look of looking physically beautiful, not knowing that that comes from true inner aura. A lot of these ladies in these foreign countries, when you see them dealing with these white guys, a lot of times, if they're doing it for the money, a lot of times that money isn't going to good use. A lot of times it's going so that they can have the look of someone that is living good. Because what we notice amongst women that have a sickness for trying to show off for others is that they never want to show off for themselves, which by default means that they lack what? Self-love. They have no self-love for themselves, so they're willing to do whatever they need so that others can give them fake love. And they realize that they're like a dog chasing their tail. You see, men do this as well. Men will get money from their job, put money into their shoes, into their car, into everything except their actual future. Why is that? That's because that man doesn't love himself. He loves getting love from other people. So it's a disorder. It's a disorder. People really need to find self love. All right. So now we go on to the next subject, right? And, we always hear this statement, we always hear this talk of, oh, oops. We always hear this talk of, let me see, where is it? This was from my earlier live stream, y'all. But we always hear this talk that black men shouldn't deal with other races of women, da 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 da. Why can't we? Why do we always hear that? Black American men, you shouldn't be dealing with any other race, da 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 da. Why do we always hear that? I have a theory that the reason they don't want black men to deal with other races is because they've never cared about a black man's peace. Because if a woman of any race is bringing you peace and you're not getting it from another one, you should just go to there where you're welcome, not tolerated. You should go where you're welcomed. There's black women that can bring you a lot of peace around the world. I've definitely seen it in Africa a lot. There's Brazilian women that can also bring you a lot of peace as well. So when we hear this statement that, oh, black men, they shouldn't deal with any other type of race and stuff, we have to think to ourselves, why is this person saying this? Do they really care for me? Is there a thing that I'm going to get if I deal with another race? Oh, well, these other race of people do this to you. Well, this race also does this to me. So, it's kind of the same. And actually, to be frank, when you look at the statistics, the numbers show that these people do it less than these ones. So if I go over here, does that make me a bad person? No, it makes me a sane person, someone that cares about my peace. So that needs to be put to a close. There is no problem with having loyalty to your race, too. Don't get it twisted. But if your race isn't giving you loyalty back, then what does that make you? An insane person. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And if you're noticing that in your community, you're always considered the educated lame. You're always considered the guy that's a nerd, and you're just a fit nerd. You're the Pan-African man. You're the conscious brother. Let's laugh at the conscious brother, but give all of our love to the gangsta. We all want a gangsta. When it comes down to the honest truth, the knit and grit, you go where you are welcomed. And if other races of women are welcoming you, sounds like that's where you need to be. Now, a lot of people think to themselves, well, if you get with the other race of person, then, you're going to have your offspring, and that's going to cause confusion. When it comes to childbearing these days, guys, like I said, I had a lot of time as I wasn't on YouTube for many months to sit, think, unlearn, relearn, and learn some new things. And I'm going to tell you guys the truth about offspring. What's the point? Why are we still bringing offspring into a world where it's not certain? With the way the world is, you would have to really question the sanity of a lot of people. Is this any world that you can say is 100% not that your offspring is 100% going to make it all the way? We have to remember we live in a country where random offings is normal. Pew 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 pew, pow 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 pow. We live in a country where at any point in time your offspring can get hit with a stray bullet. This is a fact. It happens a lot. We live in very uncertain times. And you have to really think to yourself, is the goal even to have an offspring at this point? I mean, what's even the reason? Most parents, they don't even have enough money saved up for themselves. So you think to yourself, why did you even have them in the first place? Just to make them suffer? A lot of people cheer their moms on as heroes and say, oh, my mom's such a great person because she had me and, and she took care of me. Did she? Did she save up for your college tuition? Did she save up for a rainy day fund? Did she make the appropriate choice of who she let in her and who she made your father? Did your mother ensure that you could have some money in case of any medical emergencies? Did she make sure that you were going to have men in your life that can assist you on your manhood journey? Did your mother ensure that you're going to have a solid male role model so that you don't become the male that you're seeking? See, there's so many women that I see that they don't even have an appropriate male role model, and eventually when they become so aggressive, and a lot of men are looking at an aggressive woman like, why is she so aggressive? A lot of times that's because she never had a male in her life to defend her from the aggressors. So she had to take on the role of becoming a man subconsciously so she can defend herself from the evil forces of the world and the powers that be and evil men. So now she's so aggressive, she's so mad, she's so mean. And a lot of men look at these women and say, man, she's a problem. But we have to remember, her mother created her. And her mother, 9 times out of 10, didn't give her the proper resources to become the woman that she was truly meant to be. It stuns a lot of women's growth. It's likely the same thing of a lot of men. You see a lot of men are very effeminate, very soft spoken, very having no lacking a purpose. You ask yourself, well, why is that? The guy, the man, the male seems to love his mother, but yet your mom didn't give you all the things that you needed in order to grow you into a full tree or a full man. So you have to ask yourself, really, is the goal these days to even be in a relationship to have offspring, or is it to have peace? Is it to just have a peaceful person around you? We have enough youth inside of these foster homes that need adopting because of their irresponsible parents. I don't think we need to keep creating more when we already have enough offspring suffering. So, for that statement that a lot of Black people make that, oh, dealing with other races of women and procreating with them is going to create a lot of confusion with the offspring. Well, sometimes that's not every man's goal to have offspring. Sometimes your goal is just to be around a peaceful person, something that you've maybe never had in your entire life. So that's where we're at with it. Let me see if I hit all my talking points. Let me really think. I guess I'll end off on this note. While there is a lot of peaceful women, there is a lot of great women around the world coming in different shapes and sizes, different colors, different variations, different personalities. While there is a lot of great women, it's important to ensure that we're not mistaking love for fetishism. A lot of women will come to you and act like they love you, but a lot of them also have fetishizes about you. And to fetishize somebody, that's not real love. The same can go for a woman dealing with another type of race of male as well. A lot of times it's a fetish. I want to try this out. But a lot of them don't want to try this forever. That's the sad part. And you notice by this time you've become so comfortable with the person, now you formed an attachment because that person put on a front to make you fall for them. And the whole time, all you were was a quick fetish. Let's never forget how fetish even started over here. Petting zoos and all types of stuff. Let's not get into that, but there's some things that's going on. So it's important to keep that in mind, brothers and sisters. as I said, typically these videos will be on the Patreon. Hopefully, you guys have heard that. For all the new people that are here watching, make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts on the video. I see you guys in the live stream. I'm going to read your questions before I close out as usual. Typically, these videos will be on the Patreon, though. These are live streams that I'll be doing for 1 to 3 hours. I'm going to do these once a week. Sometimes I may do it twice. They may even go for up to 10 hours. Who knows? If the conversation or the topic is just that good, I'm going to have you guys call in as well. And other ones, I'm getting my streaming network set up. So, yeah, I think I've said enough with that. Let me close out right here. Read you guys' comments real quick. Which country is the most and least? What? Young villain, what you... Man, what? I can't read this, man. Which country is the most at? Is this the most at? Oh, man, I'm thinking you was trying to at somebody in the chat. Okay. Young Village says, which country is this the most at? And least prevalent. Okay, so he was talking about a certain subject that we're already off. Let me try to remember what that was talking about. Which country is this the most at? Well, I'll just go off of the topic of this video, okay? The truth is that you're going to find a lot of countries inside of Africa and around the world that have a subconscious love for the white zaddy. You're going to find this all around the world. This is because this has been programmed into the minds of a lot of women, especially when they were young. It's actually kind of sickening because it's predatory how they're preying on them. Just like a credit card company is predatory. They prey on you and wait till you turn 18, then they go ahead and strike. It's similar to how they push their propaganda all over the world. That's how these other entities do their business. While you're young, they put these things in your mind, make you comfortable. You think these behaviors are okay. You think this is okay. You think this is the standard. And when you get older, you're wondering to yourself, well, why is it that, I feel like this hair looks better on my head than my own natural hair? Well, typically that's because you were programmed to believe this. They preyed on you to believe from a young person that this is the standard for hair. This is the standard of beauty. This is what you need to be. But as I've been around the world, the most attractive thing about foreign women to me, besides their amazing personalities, is the fact that when I see some that are natural, when I see them, when they wear their actual traditional garb, when I see the women that, speak their native tongue and it's so soft spoken, that's what really attracts me to them. Not when they have an identity crisis and they're trying to pose as what the American standard is. That doesn't really turn me on. So I'll say that it's all around the world, man. This Western media is global. A lot of things are programmed into the youth minds these days, guys. So be careful. If you have offspring, if you have youth, be careful. Make sure that you mind what they see. A lot of people don't think this deep about things, but like I told you guys, I've had lots of months to think, unlearn, relearn, and even when I think about how people just grow up and they have a fear towards Black people, I think to myself, how much of this is from the movies where the villain is always dark skinned or the villain is always Black? You think to yourself, well, my mere presence shouldn't be scaring you this much, should it? I know I'm a tall Black man, but the fear that you have in your eyes of me it's out of this world. I didn't do anything to you. But we have to remember a lot of this is programmed into their mind. Even a lot of these white police, when they're shooting at us, we have to remember as well, at some point they were preyed on too by the system. The system showed them as they grew up that, Black men are violent, Black men are dangerous. So immediately when they see you, they come to you completely different how they would go to one of their own. It was all programmed into them by a predatory system that programmed these disgusting things into people's mind so that when they get older, they can believe it's normal to act this kind of way to another person. It's programmed behavior, learned behavior. So I think we had one more comment. Right here it says from Brother Dan, all things being equal, salary, physique, and age, do you think an African woman would choose white over a black man? Uh, hmm. I believe truly that an African woman, I believe truly every woman around the world would choose their own race over the other person. I think I think the white man for a lot of these races around the world, I think it's just the standard that's been programmed into their mind. But even right now, if we had the option, right, most people just naturally, there's a biological reason for this too. Most people would pick who they look like the most because typically your mother raised you and she looks exactly like you. She shares the same skin complexion, maybe the same cheekbones as known in your tribe. You know, your father has the same hair texture as you. He has the same demeanors and aura as you and stuff, and he's raised you like this. So you kind of typically want to be around homies that are like this or women when you're looking to date that are similar to the traits of what your mother was. So I think naturally, no, I think naturally African women would probably choose to be with their own people. But I think, given the African woman's unfortunate situation on how they're in a country where their government has completely forgotten them and has decided to be corrupt and evil instead of generous and legacy building, I think that's the dilemma they're in. So they have to say to themselves, you know what, I have to just choose this white man. If he can provide me and maybe my family, if it's not a greedy woman, she says maybe he can provide me and my family an opportunity to get out of this hellhole we're in because our evil government has stripped us of everything, then this is the small price to pay. Dan comes back and says, there seems to be a lot of white worship over there, though, bro. You're right. There is a lot of white worship inside of Africa. And like I said earlier, if you want to rewind the video back, I'm going to keep this video up for you guys because I know it seems like we have a good audience and a lot of people are liking this content. But yeah, they're going to worship the white people because subconsciously they truly believe that the white man is God. They truly believe it. Their churches show a white Jesus, and this has been shown to them since they were a child, since they were young. So these things are programmed into their mind. You'll notice actually in some African countries, they don't do that with the white Jesus and white Santa Claus. It's interesting because we notice in those countries, the women, they typically lean more traditional. They wear the traditional garb more. They don't really, subject themselves to Western ways. Interesting experiment. Very interesting. But yeah, you might have to rewind it back to hear what I was saying about the two parts of the brain. You have one part of the mind that subconsciously says that this person is wow, this person is everything, this person's a god. Then your conscious brain says this person is a white male. The eyes only see a white male. The mind sees a god, subconscious and conscious. We have a new commenter that says those white men don't love black women. They're tricking off on them. Africans are very weak-minded. Well, I'll tell you the truth, man. Not all Africans are weak-minded. That's the first thing. And I know you didn't say all, so I won't fret too much on that one. But Africans are in a dilemma. And it's a hard dilemma that needs to be faced. Either you resolve your issue with your evil, corrupt government, or you stay hungry and be a beggar for the rest of your life. The choice is yours. And a lot of the African countries we see that they've decided to just become beggars and they've decided to not push their government to bend to their will. And we see the government takes and takes and takes, strips them of the beautiful resources of their land. I remember somebody mentioned this earlier of the gold, lithium, etc., inside of their countries. And that's how it goes. And to your statement, those white men don't love black women. They are tricking off on them. A lot of times I'd say this is true. And I don't just say things lightly, right? The realest and rawest, honest answer I can give to this, to why I believe that they don't really love them, is because I've seen a bit too many stories, and I have yet to see a lot of white men even walk side by side with their black women in Africa. And, you know, I truly believe that they exploit them a lot. They go to these villages and they take advantage of some of the younger women. It's interesting because they always talk about, passport bros, or, black men that are doing things like this. But, the bigger issue actually, when it comes to trafficking and things of that nature, the bigger problem comes from these people. It's their race that does it the most. This isn't to say that I hate this race or anything like that. I'm just simply pointing out the raw and real facts. White people do have a reputation for trafficking more than the rest of people, of the races. They'll focus on petty crimes in America, like black people robbing a jewelry store, white people doing little small crimes and stuff like that. But the biggest traffickers, we can even see back in the day, they have a whole show called Snowfall that was based on this, on how the American government colluded with traffickers. I mean, it's there. We have it in our history. I mean, they've done this multiple times on many occasions, but yet the black people, we always are at fault. So when it comes to your comment, those white men don't love black women, they're tricking off on them. Yeah, I'd say they are. I mean, I think they're looking at it like I'm here for a little bit and I'm just trying to, get into something. I think that's how they look at it, you know? And unfortunately, since the government's so corrupt, it lets them do this. Yet they'll get mad at a black man for doing something that's not even illegal, but they have yet to say anything about them. Why is that? Why would an African government be mad at a black American for coming to their country, maybe speaking out on how the African government is corrupt, versus a white man coming to the country and taking advantage of young women inside of a village? Why would they be upset at the black American man more than the white man? Maybe because they're so corrupt and they know that they need white men to keep their pockets filled. They can care less about their people. It's a non-human entity. We have to remember that. You can compare these evil African governments to a snake. No, a snake is biologically real. You can compare them to a rock, because a rock is an inanimate. It's not real. It's not a creature, right? It doesn't care about anything. That's what it is. Just like a robot. It doesn't have any real care for you. It's programmed to care. It might program to act like it cares, but it doesn't care about you at all. And that's what a lot of these African governments are. But yeah, they I don't think they really love them. I think it's a fetish. I think it's definitely a fetish. I think it's a fetish around the world. But I think the African women, they just kind of go with it because they're looking for an opportunity. And for me, I just wish that a lot of them would use the opportunity in order to better their people. I've spoken on this before, how you have African scammers and you have African people doing certain things of selling certain parts of things on them. And I've mentioned this before, as I'm about to state the same today, that it's unfortunate that you see these African people, they do certain things like this and they get a significant amount of money. And instead of giving it back to their people, they immediately go straight to flexing by Mercedes Benzes. It's always a Mercedes Benz. I know an African person might be doing some form of corruption when they have a Mercedes Benz. It's always something like, you can tell somebody's kind of like a wicked person to have that much poverty in a country and to be driving around in a Mercedes Benz like there's not children that need things. It's evil. It's evil. It's evil. Multiple Mercedes Benzes? Oh gosh, you're really non-human, huh? Now, shout out to the real Africans that work for their money, but this is how I feel. Um. Anyways, I'll end off on a quick story because I see we still have a lot of people here. Oh, look at the comments. Oh gosh, I kind of didn't see these. Okay. Dan says, being scammed at the airport, faced with begging and white worship, is it worth going to certain African countries like Kenya? Maybe find a sister in Colombia or Brazil? You know what? You can go wherever your heart desires. For me, I have a certain mission that I'm on inside of Africa, so that's why I end up going there a lot. I have things that I've done, things that I've built, and I also look at Africans as my people. Even though I'm a Black American, I do look at Africans as my people, and I do see that there's things that need to be done. They didn't ask to be in this kind of life. So I choose to live my life like this. It sometimes is a burden, but I do know the things that I've done will be written down in the handbook of amazing, great legacy building men once I'm not here anymore. And I'm okay with that. Um, Not every time you go to Africa, you're going to run into a beggar or, somebody that's clearly showing that they're white worshiping and all that stuff. Like, you might be in a good situation sometimes, but a lot of times you will see it. But yeah, I mean, do what your heart desires, man. This is your life. If finding a Colombian or Brazilian woman brings you peace, I'm all for it. I'm for whatever brings you brothers peace. We've suffered enough. We've suffered enough. This is how I look at Black Americans and Africans. We've all suffered enough. We all suffered enough. Uh, Wise Man says Africans are slackers, bro. They can't fully develop on their own. It's a part of being backwards. African women are on the bottom of the dating and marriage pool. They're, in for a rude awakening. Yeah, 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 yeah. The thing, right? They're going through something. It's a pivotal point in time, right? And the world will see what they do. We'll see. It's either they're going to react because they're tired of being manipulated by their evil, corrupt government, or they're going to stay like that for life. And it's going to get to a point where now they have so many laws put in place to where you can't even leave your house and you're, well, maybe you didn't fight hard enough. There's always that pivotal point in time, right? See, African Americans, we could have been enslaved forever. If it wasn't for the fact that Black Americans said, you know what, enough is enough. We're tired and we're not going to take this anymore. We found an opportunity and we won in our own way. We didn't fully win, but out of all the countries I've seen with melanated people, I'd say that the Black Americans in America have reached the furthest. But that's because we were getting tortured. Some people don't see the torture directly, so they don't feel like it's that bad. And sometimes this happens in Africa a lot. They feel like since they're not being whipped, since they're not being in shackles, some of them don't view the torture that their government is instilling in them as that bad. So they let it slide. We were in a do or I situation. We were in a do or DIE situation. We as Black Americans had to act. So that's where we're at with that. As for them not developing on their own, like I said, we're in a pivotal time. Uh, we'll see what happens. We see Burkina Faso, we see Mali, we see Niger, we see Kenyans are tired of certain things that they're going through. We see the Ethiopians, we see the history of the Zulus. So we will see. We will see. The world is watching. You're far above Dr. Umar. Hey, man, you know what? I appreciate the compliment. I'll appreciate the compliment. I'll leave that to that. More Fortune. I see what you did there. Moor Fortune says, if African corrupt leaders ain't agents, then Africans are under karma from previous life. Somebody mentioned this before. Somebody mentioned before the reason Africans must suffer is because of what they did to the Black Americans. And I thought that was an interesting concept. And the only reason I won't speak on that too much is because that's dipping into a form of maybe even religion, talking about karma and stuff like that. That's like kind of into the religious route. I'm more raw and real. So when I preach rawness, I preach real biology. I preach structure and simplicity, rawness, as raw as they come. You have things that have been genetically modified. I'm talking about raw. No chemicals added, just the rawest. That's the lifestyle I believe in, a raw and real. Just as real to the core as it gets. So that kind of is dealing into a kind of point of you know, a point of religion. But it is a good theory. I'm not gonna lie. And who knows, it could be true. Because truly, the atrocities that the African brothers committed due to their greed to sell their own people, you can say in some form it does seem like karma. It does seem like karma. I'm not gonna lie. It does seem like karma. But at the same time, I can't back that by facts. And I also have to acknowledge that not all countries in Africa sold slaves. So why are certain countries in Africa suffering even though they didn't sell slaves? They revolutionized. They got together. They unified. They did what they had to do. But the powers that be were just so strong against them, and they just failed. So there's things that goes into it, but it's definitely a point to come back to. What happened to Mark Meets Africa? The brother gone MIA. You know what? As it pertains to Mark, I'm not going to say if I've talked to him recently or nothing, but I will say this. I send Mark my highest energies. I hope he's finding peace in his life. Unfortunately, I believe that in Mark's situation, it was one man versus the world. He was trying to get his land. He was trying to do things that, to me, was going to make a huge difference in Africa. But unfortunately, we have infiltrators. We have African corrupt leaders that don't want to see Black people do good for other African people, not just the white supremacist. We have African people that are just as bad as white people, or even worse in some cases, that don't want to see their people succeed at all by any means possible. So we have to keep this in mind as well. So I know people have their rumors about Mark and Austin, all these types of people that you guys have seen in my videos previously. But I'll tell you like this. Anytime that you're going into something as serious as a revolution, or as serious as, conquering, or you're trying to move as a unit, or trying to have some type of unified group reach a goal, it's very important that when you say that you have a group and you're doing things, it's important to move as an actual group. Sometimes we see that some people want to take on the lead, and that's why they take on the most heat. So when everything goes bad, and it might not even be because of what they've done, due to you pushing yourself, being the lead, now all the fallback falls on you. It's important that if we're going to move in the right directions and form our unions and our goals, that we do not forget that we move as a unit, we move as a pack. Not one leg moves forward unless we all agree on moving forward. It can't be a one person does one thing. We all need to know what's happening in this group. We all need to make executive decisions in this group. So when there is some backfire, we know exactly how we're going to handle it together. We're not shaky, having unplaced footing because one person decided to leap forward, the other 10 decided to leap backwards, and now we're confused and falling down. It's important that you move as a package and as a real unit. So for Mark, I do wish him the best, but unfortunately, I don't think it was smart what he did to move as the lead. I would have never took on such a burden, especially dealing with people that I know it can be tricky. See, I think Mark's issue doing business in that country that he did that business in, no, no, no. It's just it to me, and I remember all of our long talks, and he was so happy about this mission. That's the saddest part because you guys weren't there, sitting there on top of the nice rooftop, looking at the view of this country. It's such a beautiful country. You guys weren't there to see that, but it was so sad, just knowing that he worked extremely hard for this, and to know that due to the fact he had the right mission, he had the right goal, he just put it in the wrong environment, and that messed him up bad. So for wherever Mark is, I hope he's doing okay, and I send him the best of energies and the best wishes and most peace. I'll leave it to that. We're going to quickly go through the rest of these so that we can close out. As I've said, typically these videos will be on Patreon. These videos will not typically be on YouTube. The reason it's on YouTube today is because I am still learning how to use this streaming software, the streaming network that I'm on, and I'm trying to figure out how I can make it exclusively for Patreon users only. So typically when I do these videos, I'll put them on YouTube at first. If you catch them, you catch them. But if you don't, they'll always be on Patreon. This one will stay up, but most of them will all be on Patreon. So if you ever want to see a live stream like this, go on Patreon. Let me see. I think something happened. Let me check. Okay, yeah. So let me see real quick. Mark scammed. I mean, Mark meets. Well, Lamar, you know what? It looks bad, but we have to remember if we were in this position, we wouldn't want people to say that we did certain things, right? Mark's situation is very complex, man. I'm telling you, I really do know this brother on a very deep level. Like we've had many long talks, many conversations, and it's a tricky situation, man. It's very tricky. I've seen all the proof and evidence, and you know what I believe is that doing the project in a country like that is not smart. The country's not fully developed. He was young. I believe this was his first business like this that he was getting into, doing land and stuff. And I believe that truly he should have never got into something like this, especially not solo. But he had a great mission. All the greats in life, we can call them names and we could say, what we believe that they are and call them shitty people because they weren't successful. But one thing we can't call them is someone who didn't try. When we think of most of the world, most of the quote unquote males of this world that can't be respected as men, we have to remember they didn't even try. A lot of people, I saw videos that they made on Mark, and I thought to myself, how unfortunate is that? Like you relied on a young black man to get you to your mission, yet you didn't want to even try to do it yourself. Why was there so many people relying on a young black man to get this land and stuff like that? It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. A lot of people, they relied on Mark, to do this. And I'm not saying that he didn't do things wrong, but I'm saying to say that he scammed and to say these things, one thing that we can say is that he did try to actually do legitimate business. From what I've seen, you guys didn't see the hours. You can only imagine. It's actually heartbreaking. You can only imagine the work that I seen Mark put into this. And I said, man, this dude, I'm motivated. I'm black first. I got all this stuff, accolades and stuff that I've done too behind the scenes for a lot of countries, and I've done great things in my life. But this young brother, Mark, man, when I mean this brother put in this work, man, I mean, golly, we were sitting for hours, hours, and he's planning everything out perfectly, not to how he can scam people, but how he can do legitimate business right. But every single time he told me, man, these people, brother, I'm trying to do this legitimate, but these people, they told me that I got to pay this much money to do this right. But I already told the people that it's like this. I told the people that I'll be ready by then, but these people that are in the government building, they told me that's going to take till Tuesday. But it's that's a whole week from now. And you're thinking to yourself, how unfortunate to see this brother struggle like this. And the saddest part, he tried to do it alone. You know, if I could tell Mark anything, I'd say, I just wish he didn't do it alone. But at some point in time, as well, there were certain people, from what I've heard, there were infiltrators. Some people inside of Mark's group, they were infiltrators, and they caused a lot of havoc, threatening, uh, horrible things that they've said to him that they're going to do to him. So now Mark's kind of getting off put. So there was a lot that went into that, guys. There was a lot that went into that. So, hey, that's in the past. But one thing we can't say is that he didn't try. Wise man says he was too young and inexperienced. Shake my head. Yeah, I can give you that. I can give you that. He was too young and inexperienced. I can give you that. That's true. Uh, Ever since Liberia lost Black American leadership via rebellion, they have been suffering. Well, hey, man, like I always say, you are what you put in. So if you don't put in, then somebody's going to put you out. Like, is if you're not doing what you got to do, man, then they going to do what they got to do. And what they got to do, probably not what you going to want them to do. Hopefully that makes sense. Dan says, respect your loyalty to him, but you ain't keeping it 100. The brother was a scammer. We got to call BS. Salute to O'Shea. Well, you know what, Dan? I would be curious to hear what you've done for your people. Now, there's certain things that they're sensitive matters when it comes to Mark's land project. But I will say this, to call him a scammer would be completely false. I don't think you know all the information, because a scammer is a scammer in and out. A scammer is somebody that actually scammed. If one or two people say that, oh, this didn't go exactly how it was supposed to go, but other people are saying, oh, this actually was legit, but they don't tell you that it was legit, but they tell you that they do talk about the two people that did feel like they get scammed, but they're not talking about the people that actually had a legit experience, then that would mean by default that this person isn't exactly a scammer. Maybe there's some miscommunications in between. People are only highlighting what they've seen online. But I'll be curious to know, if you want to go ahead and just say it real quick, Dan, what have you done for the Black community? I'm ready to listen. I have a little bit more time. But yeah, you know, uh, just say what you've done. I mean, a lot of people, they talk and say all types of things, and oh, these people do this and oh, these people do that. But at the end of the day, we know what it really is. I mean, what have you done? I mean, did you try to do it legitimately, or did you just not try at all? We must apply this to every fashion of our lives. You know, there's people that we say to ourselves that, this person, I don't like the way they did this. But we have to ask ourselves, did we even ever try, or even for that matter, come close? This person definitely made more progress than I have. So we can't just say certain things, without having the full story. I think a lot of people saw certain receipts and they're like, oh, well, this makes sense. So that means I'm going with this narrative. But we have to see the full picture. That's all I'm saying here. Uh, I just saw Wiseman says, can we still call in? Yeah, you can call in. Yeah. But after this, I'll probably end it. So we'll do one call in. Let me see real quick. Let me see. I'm still learning how to use this. I need to do this. Invite guests, copy. Boom, boom. Okay. So I've just dropped the link if you guys would like to call in as before we close out. Um, but yeah, let me continue to read. House Lamar says, okay, no offense, bro. Yeah, it's no offense taken, honestly. Like I said, guys, me as a Black man at this point in my life, I look from the inside. I see everything that you guys see. I can understand how Mark seems like a scammer, but I also say to myself, from what I know about Mark and from the things that I've seen him do when it comes to his project, I can also see how he's not a scammer. I can also see how Austin looks like he's a horrible person too. I can see it. But I can also see from what I actually know about Austin that he's actually not a horrible person. Y'all see what I'm saying? You have to be able to see different points of the cube in order to get the full picture. Because everything's not as it seems. The front cover looks like this, but the back cover shows a completely different story. And then you realize that it's not just the front and back, it's also a left and right side. And there's also a top and a bottom. So there's so many different sides of this cube. So, you have to get all the pieces first before saying things. But I can understand. I completely understand where you guys come from. It's no offense ever to me. I mean, hey, I get it. It looks a certain way. Um, okay, we got somebody in the add to stage. Let me add them to the. They made this easy. Yo,
Yo, what's
wise
up?
wise man, what's good?
Man, chilling on this Sunday night, listening to your call it a podcast, listen to your channel.
Great.
Yeah, man, I like the subject you had up there. I don't notice it that much. I've never been to Africa. I plan on going to Kenya or South Africa,
Hmm.
but this whole African women worshiping white men. African people in general do that due to, like, you could say, colonization, media representation, but I see a lot of African men doing that. And I think the women do it to not also just get back at the men, but also be like, well, shoot, we can play that game too. What do you say about that?
Um, are you saying they're doing it to spite each other, like it's a game or something?
Yeah, I think like more like to one up each other because a lot of African guys will come here to America, and man, they all over white girls. I mean, over white women. They're running after them. They behind them. So like I said, and they doing that to be like, hey, look at what I got. I stepped up my status. So it's kind of like I'm above you, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think they're doing like in spite, but also to one up one another.
Hmm. I mean, hey, that could be true. What makes you want to go to Kenya or South Africa? What's your goal of going?
Oh man, I always want to see Africa. I want to see the best part of Africa.
Hmm.
I want to see, just a touch down the motherland. Also just to travel abroad to see what else is out there. It's not just about women. That's a plus. If I
Hmm.
can meet a good woman in Africa, someone who's feminine, somebody who has womanly traits, not that cannot get that here in America, but you run into a lot of issues here in America, but you could run into issues anywhere. What makes you want to go to Kenya and South Africa is just to, see a different part of the world.
That's dope. And let me ask you this too. And I appreciate you for coming on here professionally and not cursing and stuff because YouTube's guidelines are so lame. But let me ask you this. What do you think you're going to experience when you get to Kenya? Because I remember when I first started traveling 5 years ago internationally, but globally, like, nationally, I was traveling like way before that. But I remember when I first started traveling, I really had a different perspective of Africa than I have now. So I'm really would be curious. I think it would be good insight for a lot of the audience too. Like, what do you think you're going to see when you get to Africa? Like, how do you think it's going to be? Like, just people, experiences, and just what's your thoughts? I'm curious.
Well, I know for a fact after like traveling to Mexico and just I can't. Mexico is not Africa, but I'm talking about in general of culture shock. I know I'm going to experience a culture shock. I know that the culture is going to be very different. I
Mm,
know the men are going to be very different. There's certain things I'm not going to know. So I'm going to be shocked. I'm going to be learning day by day. I expect the food to be different, the air to be different, the transportation to be different, currency to be different. But what I really expect out of the people is for them to be, decent, maybe welcoming, um, allow me to explore and learn their culture. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I think you will get that too. I'll say this, right? As much ish as everybody and even myself sometimes may talk about Africa, African people are very kind people. You
Hmm.
know, you're definitely going to go there and feel welcomed, most definitely. But the only thing sometimes that throws you off about African people is it quickly dwindles down when their welcoming becomes, can I get some money? So now you're
Hmm.
thinking to yourself, did you welcome me because you look at me as just money? And you're just like so nice and friendly because you just want money? Or did you welcome me because I'm an actual human being and you appreciate my being here because maybe I'm adding to the economy, I may be providing jobs, I'm, a good person, those factors play in. So, I like that though. I like that. How did you like Mexico?
Mexico was nice. I haven't been there in years. Last time I
Mhm.
was there, I was a teenager. I like Mexico. I know the news try to make it seem like it's the worst place to be. You know, it's extreme poverty, which it is. There's, men on trucks with choppers and machine guns driving around chopping people. Yeah, that's there. It exists, but that's not the entirety of the country. The country is very beautiful, beautiful people. It's
Right.
not perfect, but I did like Mexico when I went to go visit. I like Ensenada. Would I go back now? No, unfortunately, due to what's going on. I would still love to visit Cabo. You gotta be careful. When I was there, it was beautiful. It was a nice culture. I enjoyed myself.
That's dope. You said what's going on. What's happening in Mexico? I'm not paying much attention to the news
Well,
these.
immigration, I like talking about this, but they have a lot of violence with the cartels. There's a cartel war going on right now. So you gotta be careful. They're kidnapping people. They have a lot of red flags saying don't go to certain parts of Mexico. Be very careful. I was supposed to go there with my dad next year. He said we're gonna cancel the trip because a lot of those hotels and resorts are being harassed and extorted by the cartels. So you gotta be careful going out there. I mean, I want to go see some beautiful Mexican women, but you gotta be careful with that. Talking to
Right.
Mexican women in Mexico. I mean, hate to say this, man, but we're black men, so you out there talking to their women, some won't mind, but a lot of them are like, man, what you talking to them guy for? Why are you talking to him? It be
Mhm.
like that.
Right.
Ain't
And
like in Colombia where you got like a lot more black people, so they don't mind. In Mexico, there's black people. It's not a lot of black people. It's mostly Latino. So it's not really that culturally diverse like South America. So you're gonna have a little problem. So you gotta be careful with doing that.
right,
That's
right.
another reason why I want to go to Africa too, because I won't have to deal with that crap. I'm not just saying that happens all the time, but if I'm talking to a black woman, no one's tripping.
Right. No, I hear you on that. I hear you. Africans, when you're there, you'll definitely sometimes get looks if you look Black American. But the cool thing is that you kind of blend right in. So nobody really notices that, nobody really notices that you don't stand out like a sore thumb. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you're not gonna
what's your
be.
thoughts? What's your thoughts on the topic?
My thoughts is that, hey man, me personally, I'm not against whoever you love. You love whoever you like. You like.
Mhm.
If you're being exploited, it is what it is. If they run game on you, it is what it is. If African women have an affinity for white men, it is what it is. If they see them that way, that's their thing. Good for them.
Mm.
I feel that. I hope I wish the best for them. I just know the reality of the world we're living in. A lot of time, like I said, those white men are just tricking off. They're getting their rocks off on these African women, and when time is over, you know, they book it. They get up out of there.
Yeah, actually, I had a story that I had for. Okay, so I was going to like some cafe or something. This was in Mombasa, Kenya, and I was at the cafe and I spoke to the waitress and I was like, "Can I get this?" And she's like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." I was like, "Thank you." The dude, this white guy, he heard me. He was like, "Bro, are you American?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Oh shoot, what's good, brother?" And I was like, "What's up, man?" And it's cool. We had a conversation. A lot of it was talking about business and just seeing what him and his uncle, they had some type of farm that they were tending to over there. But eventually he asked me, he said, "And what's your thoughts about the ladies, man?" And I was like, "Oh, the ladies here are cool. I think they're really cool women. how are you liking them? And it was really important to me to ask this because from that point, I had never really heard a white person tell me like how they, how their experiences is with African women. So the white dude, he said, "Bruh," and he looked at me like gnarly, dude. Like, but he basically told me, he said, "Man, it is good, man. Now, let me put you onto a secret." And I really shouldn't be saying this because this is something that I talk about on the master class, the financial freedom master class on my Patreon. But I there's something that he said here. Actually, you know what? It was clever, but it's actually messed up, but it's legal, but it's clever. And I threw it out there. I think I'm gonna save it for the master class, man. I think I ain't gonna throw that in there though. But I will say this. I will say this. He had a clever way of getting women basically with gifts. And I'm just gonna keep it as simple as that. This was one of the techniques that I threw out in the master class because he had a super cool way to kind of like finesse. Everything he's doing is legal. This isn't like no like weirdo stuff or taking advantage of a woman. No, it's basically, peacocking. But he did it with gifts, and the certain thing, the way that he did it and the gift that he used for this, it's interesting. And basically, he said sometimes the ladies will be mad after for certain reasons, but he said at the end of the day, they can't be upset, they can't go to police, they can't do because he didn't do anything wrong. But that's explained in the masterclass. But hey, man, it's interesting stuff though because the white dudes, they definitely got their finesse set up. Like they
Mhm.
know how they gonna get to it, And it's interesting because he told me he did that with so many women, and he said the major way that he was able to do this with a lot of women is because they already look at me as legit. He said, I don't know what it is about them out here, but I feel like when they look at me, they think like I'm legit. So, they basically just trust, whatever gift I give them and stuff. And, it's an interesting story, but, basically, that just shows their idolization for the white man in their country. You get me?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, brother, I mean, hey, go to Africa, you're gonna have a great time. I'm gonna tell you like this too. Don't care about nothing they saying online about Africa and like, oh, if anybody says you shouldn't go or something like that, you should definitely go, bro. Africa is a great place to be. There is some issues, right? Some struggles, some stuff like that. But in terms of peaceful people, when you're not, Austin's situation, he started off doing a lot of female content. So even though he stopped doing that, that thing unfortunately carried over. And a lot of people look at Austin like, man, he's still that guy that did this kind of content. See, some people, they're hypocrites and they don't believe in change. But if it was them, they would want people to see their change and value it and see that this person is making an effort to be different. But they can't see it when it's on the opposite foot. So, you know, I'm just saying that when you go to Africa, you're gonna notice, man, the lady's very feminine. There's gonna be a certain respect level just from everybody, the men, the women. There's basically no gangs like that. I guess if you go like to certain areas and in certain countries that are war torn, you'll find certain gangs and stuff. But there's so much peace that comes from a man. And I've been all around, man. I got associates all over the world, whether they're from South America, Latin America, you know, parts of Asia. I definitely have my connection with my Chinese peoples. Mexico, like you mentioned, a lot of things that we hear online about these countries and stuff, even when it comes to India, and certain areas near certain countries near, you know, I love my people inside of these countries because they gonna tell you exactly how it is and tell you the truth. The fear is a tactic to keep you away from living your best life or living a life that you were meant to actually live. That brings you peace. So
Mhm.
the reason that they push so much of this narrative is just so that us black men or just people in general don't live the life that they were meant to live. I'll tell you one thing, as much shit as people talk about Mexico, as much shit as people talk about India and how dirty it is, as much shit people talk about all these other damn countries on this planet, I'm gonna tell you, American experience has been a hectic experience. And I've been all around the world. This place out of all countries they are one to effing talk. The amount of danger in this country is astronomical. Do you know we have the most homicides just when it comes to serial illers? I can't say the word, but serial KILLER.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, we got most of them out of this world. People sit at home plan out how they gonna do evil things to people. You
Sick,
know,
man. Sick
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and it's crazy because they even get the offspring caught up in the mix. It's evil here, man. Even the history of this country of America is evil, and they're one to talk. They're one to talk. Oh, this country don't go here. This country don't go there. This country's this. This country's that. What about this country? This country is also extremely sick. But you know the problem with sick people sometimes they don't see that they have a sickness and they don't
Yeah.
see that they need to get help. So they kind of point fingers at other people and no, all these people are sick. How are they all sick when all of them are saying you're the one that's sick?
You're right.
So yeah, man. I like these other countries, brother. I mean, there's so much positivity around the world, bro. So, I think you're gonna enjoy Africa definitely, bro. I think you're gonna definitely enjoy
Yeah.
Africa. It's such a
That's a
beautiful experience.
And that's the thing too, a big plus. Like, I know you're gonna get off the phone soon, but like
Mhm.
the women, like I know you said the women are beautiful. Of course, the body's banging. The body's nice.
Right.
But like me getting an African woman, like go to Kenya or maybe South Africa, which one do you think of a better chance in Kenya or South Africa?
It depends. What exactly are you looking for? I mean, you
Looking
said
for pretty woman, intelligent, civilized, educated. That's it. Very womanly. Soft spoken. I'm not trying to be like misogynistic. Oh, know her place, but know when to let a man do his thing, and know when to be feminine. That's what I'm looking for.
you can
Someone,
say somebody that knows their place. I mean, that's not
yeah,
misogynistic because when a woman says a man should protect and defend, that a lot of times means a man sacrificing his life for the woman. So if I can't say that a woman should cook and clean, by default she's insane because you expect me to risk my life for you. But when I tell you that cooking and clean is a requirement, you banter at me. That's insane. So that's not misogynistic. But for what you're saying though, if you're looking for intellectual women, great women, you're gonna find them all around the world. The thing is, though, I will say if you're looking to get away from Western women, then you're probably not gonna want to go to South Africa. That
mm,
that place is very westernized. A lot of the stuff they do in that country is very similar to America. Me personally, I think a lot of dudes go to South Africa because the ladies. I mean, look at them, the ladies on your screen right now. Hold on, these ladies right here. I can say
gorgeous.
the three in the middle right there, and I think the one to the left. So there's five ladies on the screen. Actually all four of those ladies to the left. Even the fifth lady, she might even be South African too, just like a dark skinned South African. But
Mhm.
those four definitely South African. A lot of them want to go to South Africa because the ladies they got these cool bodies, all this stuff like that.
Yeah,
But if you looking for that, that's where it's at, man. The bodies, the faces, all they got a variation of beautiful women all over the place. But I mean, that when it comes to personalities and stuff, me personally, I like Kenyan women a bit more inside of rural areas. The issue, everybody keeps going to these like major cities. So you're gonna find what you're looking for, man. If you want to just get something, you go to the major city. If you want to find you a wife that's not like westernized women, you just go outside of the major city.
Th- th-
Johannesburg on the outside, instead of Nairobi, you go to Nakuru, you go to Naivasha. Places like this, you're gonna find way better women. Even the brother right here says Tanzania women are pretty good. So, you know,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But anyways, man, yeah.
I knew a chance that when she was fine, man, she had a nice body. Like she was gorgeous. But they said, okay, so you suggest for me don't mess with like Nigeria and Ghana and West Africa. Stay more in like East Africa and South Africa, right?
No, I suggest you go to any country that you feel like resonates with you. If you like
Okay.
certain things about a country, go to that country. The thing about it is, regardless of what I tell you or anybody tells you, all these countries have great women and all of them have horrible women. That's just how it
Mm-hmm.
goes. If you're looking for a certain type of woman that's more westernized, you'll find a more concentration inside of South Africa because South Africa, a lot of things they do directly is out of the American westernized playbook. But Kenya, they have certain things that they do differently. You know, so South Africans are a bit different too, but Kenya's really different. South Africa, everything looks, when you get there, oh, this is America again. America.
Hmm.
So yeah, Nigeria has some great women though. Nigerian women are very slept on, but it's good. Keep sleeping on them. I want them to myself.
Okay.
So but yeah, y'all. I'm about to head up out of here, brother. I appreciate you for calling in. This was a really good live stream, and yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Peace.
Alrighty, brother. You have a good one. Have a good trip.
You too. Thank you.
Alrighty. All right, y'all. So y'all heard that there, man. We about to close out right here. This was a great stream as usual. If you like a consultation or to see any of my exclusive videos, make sure to head to the Patreon. The Patreon is where all these videos are always going to be. These long live streams like this, good conversations with the bros, the group chat, and my financial freedom masterclass. All that's going to be on the Patreon. All right, y'all. So as I usually say at the end of my videos, stay raw, stay real. You already know the deal. Until next time, we gone. Holla.